I come from a fucked up family. And I know that doesn't make me special in this room. I imagine most of you come from fucked up families because think about it. People from healthy families, they're out there laughing with their friends. But no, not you. You needed a professional. But here's the thing. When you're a kid, you don't realize your family is fucked up because that's all you know. But then there's a moment. There's a moment where you realize everything's not quite right. And for me, it was 7th grade. I was at my friend Kevin's house for a sleepover. Me and Kevin, we were playing video games, having a good time. Suddenly, Kevin's dad walked in the living room and was like, "Hey, who wants to see Pirates of the Caribbean tonight?" And then Kevin's mom ran in and was like, "Absolutely not. That is way too mature for their age." And Kevin's dad was like, "But I really want to see Pirates of the Caribbean." And Kevin's mom was like, "I think you'll survive, Kirk." And then my friend Kevin was like, "I am so sorry you had to see that." That was the healthiest disagreement I'd ever heard in my life. My parents got divorced when I was 7 days old. So like most kids, my first word was mama, but my next 5 were told me to tell you. My mom's been divorced twice, my dad's been divorced 3 times, and I have 4 younger half-siblings, so 2 total. And I'm 36 now, and a lot of people think that certainly by 36, you should stop blaming all your problems on your parents. Well, riddle me this. If you were in a building with a fucked up foundation, would you feel safer on the 36th floor? Yeah, I don't think so. I had dinner last month with my ex-stepdad. There's not a convenient name for that relationship because it shouldn't exist. I don't know what's better, former stepdad, the dad who stepped down. I'm sure there's a German word for a man who used to fuck my mom. The only reason we still spend time together is because he pays for every meal, which technically makes him my sugar daddy, if anything. But it gets uncomfortable because the only thing we really have in common is a bad relationship with my mom. I remember once in high school, my stepdad was driving me. They must have just had a fight or something because he was like, oh, how do I make your mother happy? But at that age, the only thing I knew about women came from the internet. So I was like, I don't know. Have you tried spelling the alphabet with your tongue? I added 6 years to that marriage. But they're divorced now. And now my mom's on eHarmony. Just in case you want to fuck my mom. She went on a date with a guy recently. I asked her, how'd the date go? She was like, let's just say we're physically compatible. And I was like, let's just say fine next time. How about that? And then she asked me, how's your girlfriend? I was like, well, she's a squirter, but we're keeping afloat. 2 can play this game, mommy. My mom will only date men that are older than her. So she is swiftly running out of options. She complained to me that her last boyfriend couldn't get it up. And when I met him, I realized she meant his whole body. She was seeing this one guy. I really like this guy because he had a lot of money. I guess he was the original driver for the trolley problem. And the breakup's been very complicated because they adopted a dog together. This cute little dog named Reggie. And my mom told me they've decided that they're gonna try shared custody of the dog. And I told her, I said, I'm sure Reggie would prefer to be put down. But she said no, she said they're doing it for him. My mom said she noticed whenever she brought new men back to the apartment from dates or whatever, she noticed that Reggie would like get really anxious and uncomfortable. And so now she only goes on dates when Reggie is at his dad's house. And I was like, oh, if only I'd been a Pomeranian. My father dated a lot when I was a kid. So much, he had a trick. Whenever he brought a new woman into my life, first he'd go to CVS, he'd buy a shitload of candy, he would give it to the woman, and then she would give it to me, so I'd automatically trust her. You know, like a pedophile. And it worked. I still get overly attached to women every Halloween. But then every relationship would end because my dad would cheat. He believed in what would now be called non-ethical non-monogamy. We didn't use those terms back then. Instead, he said, "She just went crazy, son." My father got remarried when I was a kid, and I was very close with my stepmom. Of course, we were so close in age. And it's not like we didn't stay in touch after the divorce, but a couple years ago, I was at a grocery store. I turned into the cereal aisle. There was my ex-stepmom picking out cereal with this little boy. And it felt like running into an ex-girlfriend. Honestly, I was just like, "Belinda, who the fuck is this?" And she said, "This is my son, Tommy." I was like, "Hey, buddy, does she still wear the macaroni necklace I made her for Mother's Day? Or were you just pretending it was beautiful so you could fuck my dad? I hope you like sloppy seconds, you little bitch." I've had 2 stepmoms. And I was close to them all in different ways. I never saw them as like a replacement for my own mother. That's what my girlfriend is for. And I'm going to talk about my girlfriend tonight, but I do want to be careful because I think what happens with a lot of male comedians is they'll notice something about their girlfriend or their wife, and then when they're on stage, they act like that specific trait applies to the entire gender. So I just want to be clear that this next joke is about my girlfriend. And I don't want to use her real name, so let's just call her Women. Women, hear me out, please, please. Please. Women are Jewish, and mine is no exception to the rule. In fact, my girlfriend grew up in a Hasidic community. Do you know Hasids? There's a lot in New York with the hats and the sideburns. They're always on the train reading the Torah. Every time I see a Hasidic Jew reading the Torah, I go up to them. I'm like, "How have you not finished that yet? My God. Please get to the end before you buy the costume. You look insane." It's okay, I'm Jewish. I don't feel like I need to say that, but you know some people these days, they're like, "I don't see noses." I wasn't raised very religiously, but I consider myself culturally Jewish, which means I have all the gastrointestinal problems and stress and anxiety of regular Judaism, but without the sweet comfort of God. I once asked my mom, "What do you think happens when you die?" She said, "There's got to be something better than this shit." I celebrated most of the major Jewish holidays growing up. Passover was my favorite because you get to read it at the table, and then that's the story where the Jews, we were enslaved by the Pharaoh, and then Moses made the plagues happen, and then we escaped, and we crossed the desert for 40 years. I liked it because it made Jews seem cool, but that was also kind of confusing because I was like, okay, how did we go from crossing the desert to now being known as generally frail? And I didn't know. I didn't understand until one day I went on vacation to Miami with my very Jewish girlfriend. And the moment we got to the beach, she was like, "It's like a desert out here." And I was like, "Oh my God. What if Jews have been exaggerating this entire fucking time?" We got stuck in traffic on the way there. My girlfriend was like, "Let my people go." The beach was a little crowded. She said, "There's like 6 million people here." Yeah, you got it. You want cute jokes? Go see a Christian comedian. Jews have a dark sense of humor because when you're hiding in a closet from the Nazis, you can't be like, "Knock, knock." I do get jealous of religious people for the community that they have. This isn't something that I realized until I got older, but once I hit my 30s, I think it dawned on me just how hard it is to make time for your friends. Like sometimes I'll be free on a Friday night. It's not often, but you know, I'll reach out to my friends and they're busy, and then vice versa. And I go, oh, that's what Shabbat dinner's for, right? I mean, it's just Jews decided they needed a standing date every Friday so they could spend time together. My dad was raised Catholic, and a couple times he made me go to church as a kid, and I hated church, but now I would kill to see my friends every Sunday. Right? I look at Muslims. Muslims, you know, they're supposed to pray 5 times a day, but a lot of times they do it together. And even though I don't believe in any of it, I have to admit that it seems like the key to maintaining friendships is hating gay people. About it, to be perfectly clear. But the facts are the facts. What am I going to do? I mean, the good news is that, like, you know, I don't think it's even possible to raise people that religiously anymore. It's a little East Coast bias, I'm sure, but a lot of my friends, most of my friends are raised religiously. They went the opposite direction when they got older, right? Like I would say that the friends of mine that were forced to dress up and go to church every single Sunday, those are the ones that are now like, you know, the militant atheists. Which is frankly why Christians need to stop with this whole like, we don't want our son to be gay, so we're gonna ban him from drag brunch. No, you idiot, you need to wake your son up every Sunday and be like, hey buddy, time to put on your heels. Bob, turn around, young man, you're old enough to tuck yourself. I will be in the kitchen helping your mother serve. I used to be a theater kid, but you could all tell, right? I gesture so much, even deaf people are like, shut the fuck up. Once I hosted a drag competition, one of the drag queens told me to take it down a notch. Another drag queen said that before I tell a joke, it looks like I whisper to myself a 5, 6, 7, 8. The drag queen that won the competition called me John Mulaney if the only drug he was addicted to was the stage. I went to college for musical theater, which is like having a PhD in imagination. My classes were called things like movement and voice and other things I had already studied as a baby. My only academic class was called Accounting for Actors, which was like regular accounting, but with a focus on negative numbers. The first lesson was how to file for unemployment. Yeah, we have a lot of theater kids here tonight. I figured because every comedy club I go to, they say to me, they're like, your audiences are very well behaved. And I'm like, it's not their first time in the ensemble. For those of you that are not theater kids, I'm what's known as a triple threat. Threat number 1, as you've already seen, I can act. Threat number 2, I can sing. And threat number 3, I'm annoying. Thank you. That joke cost me $200,000. I've been an actor longer than I've been a comedian. I've shared the stage with some people who have gone on to become massive real estate agents. Me, I've had some parts here and there. Biggest thing, I was in the movie Wolf of Wall Street. I played Leonardo DiCaprio's waiter. So to prepare for the role, I actually became a waiter for 12 years. It's called extra work. You know, that's where you're on screen, but you don't have any lines. You're like furniture, but with dreams. And I tried to enjoy it, but it's hard because it's like I've never been so close to everything I've ever wanted, yet further away. It would be like if the love of your life were on top of you, getting fucked by Leonardo DiCaprio. And listen, comedy is going great. It is. But I thought I'd be way more famous by now. I don't know what I was thinking. I couldn't get anyone in high school to like me, but maybe globally. When I feel down about my career, my mom, she'll say to me, "You're an actor. Why don't you act like you're not depressed?" So I say, "Mom, you're a yoga teacher. Why don't you go fuck yourself?" I have to be careful telling too many jokes about my mom because she still has all the pictures from my high school production of Arabian Nights. She could get me canceled with one Instagram post. If I ever go too far, she'll just type, "You'll always be my little Alibaba." There's a lot of pictures of me on Facebook from problematic high school productions, and I know I should delete them, but I want everyone to know I was the lead. Junior year of high school, I got cast as the lead in Little Shop of Horrors, the musical. Yeah, as a junior. And I remember I walked out on opening night and I almost broke character because there in the third row were my divorced parents sitting next to each other. There was my father, his eyes red with tears, and my mom with this big bouquet of daffodils because she remembered my dad is allergic. I know not all of you can relate to my divorce jokes, but you will someday. I think it's important because I did a family show once in New York. And after the show, this little kid ran up to me. He was there with his mom, and he was shy, but he was like, "My parents are divorced, and you're really funny." And that's why I do stand-up comedy, to meet single moms. I know. Some guys like being called daddy in the bedroom. I prefer son. The divorce definitely fucked me up. But my dad's Italian. So he'd always tell me, "Son, remember, la familia è tutto. Family is everything. Ma la tua madre è una puttana." Now, I still don't know what that second part means, but it has such a nice ring to it. I think a lot of my dad's behavior makes more sense if you know that he's also hot. I know that sounds weird for me to say, but fuck you, I have to deal with it. People meet my father, they're like, "Your dad's really good looking." Like I owe them an explanation of some kind. I remember my dad once picked me up from middle school, and I mean once, and a rumor started around my grade that I must be adopted. And it really hurt because my dad started it. This is a true story. My dad once slept with my 8th grade arts and crafts teacher. And I was so mad, because those grades don't matter. And he felt bad. He was like, "How can I make it up to you?" I was like, "You can fuck my 78-year-old algebra teacher, Mr. Breyer." My dad's a legs guy. You know, with men, they say men are either like a legs guy, a butt guy, or a boobs guy. And I know it's offensive to minimize men like that. But if my dad sees a tall woman, he's like, "Son, she's got legs for days." Because that's the only way you can measure legs in this dumb fucking country of ours. Legs for feet sounds like a horror movie. As Americans, I think you should take one moment every day to reflect just how dumb it is we still use feet as a unit of measurement. That's just some guy's foot once. But we still use it for very important things, except horses. If you don't know horses, measured in hands. That's right. Feet, hands. At some point, they must have tried. Yeah. They must have tried measuring things in cocks. I bet you they did, and I can tell you exactly what happened. No one could agree how long one cock should be. I'm sure at first they went with the average, that makes sense, but then the bottom half of men stormed the Capitol, and were like, what the fuck? My cock is only half a cock. This is not gonna stand. So then, they had to make the cock smaller and smaller until no man felt insecure, and that's how we got the centimeter. All I ever wanted was 6 inches. God, I used to spend every night in high school measuring my dick with a dollar bill. Do you know why a dollar bill? Because they're pretty much 6 inches and rulers don't curve. And I've spent hours of my life dick slapping George Washington in the face, and he'd be looking back at me like, I cannot tell a lie. You're a buck short. That's why, look, I am no fan of Donald Trump, but I would love to get him on the $1 bill. Because then no matter how big you are, he'd be like, huge. That joke will be funnier when he's not president in 12 years. Believe you me. You have my word. I know I shouldn't compare myself to other people. You know that phrase, comparison is the thief of joy? It's a beautiful phrase, but my actor friend, he's kind of intense. He got it tattooed on his arm. One line. Comparison is the thief of joy. Just in case he forgets. And I'm really thinking about getting the same tattoo, but bigger. And if he gets mad at me, I'll be like, comparison is the thief of... What does yours say? I'm not gay, but I'm definitely something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying we need to add a new term just for me, but there's no way I'm the same thing as Joe Rogan. That doesn't make sense to anyone in this room, right? God, I read Joe Rogan on his podcast. I guess he said there was some high school where there was a kid identifying as a cat, which is bullshit. I was Mr. Mistopheles for 1 semester. I don't know what it is about me, but I post pictures of myself online. People accuse me of gay baiting. I'm like, you can't blame the worm for the kind of fish that it catches. And let me tell you, it rubs some people the wrong way that I won't rub them the right way. Someone once commented on one of my videos, they said, we need to put a stop to this straggot. Have you heard that term? It's a straight agate. I was like, finally, a slur of my own. And I want to be clear, I'm not complaining about my lot in life. I realize I have a lot of privilege, but I just don't always feel like I fit the specific boxes society has laid out. Like, I still do events where, maybe I have a name tag and they want me to put my pronouns, and I always put he, him, but I don't always like the feeling of meeting someone for the first time and being like, Gianmarco Soresi, he, him. I think it'd be more accurate to be like, Gianmarco Soresi, he, him, but I'll smile if you call me girl. Gianmarco Soresi, he, him, but if we're fighting, I'm a bitch. Gianmarco Soresi, he, him, but if there's a shortage of lifeboats, I'm women and children. Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. I found out I was straight in high school. And it wasn't easy. My mom didn't believe me, but I knew. I knew because I went to 6 musical theater sleepaway camps. And if you've never been to musical theater sleepaway camp, all the guys, they go in straight, come out gay. But no matter how many of these conversion camps I attended, I still wanted Liza Minnelli to sit on my face. I fucked that up. It's supposed to be Lea Michele. But I think the truth is, it's Liza Minnelli. And sometimes guys will say to me, they're like, whoa, you're straight? You did musical theater? You must have cleaned up with the ladies, because less competition. Let me tell you something. Women looked at me in high school like sushi at 7-Eleven. Even if they were in the mood, they don't trust it. If anything, high school was a nightmare because I go to all these theater parties where at the end of the night, we'd all be drinking, smoking. Suddenly, all the women and all the gay guys would just start making out with each other. And I'd be in the back like, whose dick do I have to suck to get some pussy? This is insane! So I didn't get any action in high school until my 6th musical theater sleepaway camp. It was in New York City, and this one night, I was in my dorm room with these 2 guys. Just wait. This one guy, we're going to call him Steve. That's not his real name, but Steve is kind of famous now. And the story is about to get very sexual, so I don't want to reveal who it actually is until he's more famous. Now, Steve was the only other straight guy left at this program. It was a very good conversion camp called NYU. So, setting the stage, it's me, straight guy Steve, and then this guy named Garrison. Now, Garrison was gay, and I mean that in the derogatory way. Garrison had actually come out of the closet before camp had started because he went to a Montessori school, where if you don't know, that's where all the kids are encouraged to try cocaine. So, it's me, straight guy Steve, gay Garrison. We're all on my bed discussing what went wrong with the movie adaptation of Rent. It was a mess, right? And then, out of nowhere, straight guy Steve starts unbuckling my cargo shorts. And I looked down, I was like, straight guy Steve? What are you doing down there? And he said, Gianmarco, I'm straight, but I can make you feel amazing. And I could see Garrison watching this whole thing unfold in the corner like, the last 2 straights at the same time! And it's not important what happened after that. But, okay, you want to know? He sucked my dick. And let me just say this. This I feel I've set you up for disappointment because I couldn't get it out. And let me tell you something. I mean, Steve was working, okay? I mean, it was clearly not his first blowjob, you know what I mean? Because he was using different techniques. He was using his hands. He was doing like regular, and then like the twisty, and then like rolling the snake, and mime, climbing a rope, Spider-Man, step team. But I think he got so exasperated that without looking up, Steve just scooted over, started sucking Garrison's dick, which was ready to go. And I remember lying on my side watching straight guy Steve blow the fuck out of gay Garrison's big fat cock like, God, I am so lonely. Blackout. Now, obviously, rumors got back to the camp. But the next theater party I went to, I found out everyone was saying that I was the one who sucked Steve's dick. And I've never gotten so much pussy in my entire fucking life. You ever try talking a friend out of killing themselves and realize you don't have any good arguments? Some of you brought them here tonight. Stay strong. I have a friend. I have a friend who's been struggling with suicidal thoughts, and they're a dear friend. Not dear enough for me not to talk about their thoughts on stage, but one day they came to me out of the blue. They said they had just been fired and dumped the same day. And they said, I'm miserable, I'm depressed, I'm broke, I hate my family, my dreams are never coming true. Why shouldn't I kill myself? And I was like, you'll go to hell. I understood religion more as I get older every day. Sometimes you need to believe that there's something worse than staying alive. Listen, some of these jokes are going to be disrespectful to people who've actually taken their own lives, but none of them are here tonight, so I want you to just enjoy it, okay? Because, listen, my friend is doing better. My friend's doing fantastic, but it was touch and go for a while last year. Like, one day I woke up, my friend had texted me 3 things. It just said, I love you, I'm sorry, goodbye. And so I called immediately, of course, and it went straight to the voicemail. And I called again, straight to the voicemail, called again. Every time it'd be, hi, it's Alice. Leave a message, I'll call you right back. Beep. Which is why I need to tell you guys, if you are struggling with suicidal thoughts, update your voicemail. If you call my voicemail, I'm just like, hey. Let me tell you something my friends are never gonna say. We didn't know he was unhappy. And I'm doing fine too. But I once misdialed the suicide hotline, accidentally called a psychic. And if I'm being honest with you, that's what got me to stop being suicidal. Why would I kill myself right before I'm a movie star? And it used to be easy to fuck up the number because the suicide hotline used to be 1-800-273-8255. But then they changed it. They changed it to make it easier to remember and dial. Now you can reach them by just dialing 988, which I think is great. Truly, I think that's great. But I would change it to 867-5309. Because then, God forbid, you want to kill yourself. You're like, oh my God, 867-5309. I'm great, how are you? Okay, some of you are too young to get that joke. And you know what that makes me feel like doing? Killing myself. I keep wanting to lean, but this is very light, so it's like... It's legal in Canada. Did you know that? Canadian healthcare covers taking your own life. We have that in America too, by the way. We just call it not giving people healthcare. It's kind of a delayed release euthanasia. If you want something more fast-acting, you got to become a healthcare CEO. I think we should formally legalize euthanasia in America. Not willy-nilly, of course. I think it should be like we do everything else, age-based. Truly, 18, you can vote. 21, you can drink. 38 and a half. Right? Let's give millennials something to look forward to. And by the way, that has a purpose. 38 and a half, double that, is pretty much the average American life expectancy. And I think it's fair to be like, you've seen half, do you want to continue? You guys are doing great with this, by the way. That was like, what, 12 suicide jokes in a row? If it's too much for you, try to think of it as one mass suicide joke. And look, I don't want anyone to kill themselves. Least of all, my friend. I need them creatively. This is the friend who told me to become a stand-up comedian. We were both struggling actors together, and they said, you should try stand-up, you're funny. And I was like, I don't know how to tell jokes. And so they offered me this thing we've been doing for 10 years now. 10 years, my friend lets me call them once a week so I can run an hour of new jokes by them. So now they want to kill themselves. But it's a gift. I don't take it for granted. Sometimes I'll ask my girlfriend, I'm like, can I tell you some new jokes? And she's like, Alexa, set a timer for 2 minutes. She gets mad. She's like, why can't you ask me about my day? I'm like, baby, I'm sick of crowd work. Please. Fine. What do you do for work? My girlfriend and I are both in therapy, which is great because it means when we have a disagreement, instead of arguing like some couples do, we just see our respective therapists, reconvene, and quote them at each other. She'll be like, my therapist says you prioritize work over spending quality time together. I'm like, okay, well, my therapist says she could beat the shit out of your therapist. Sometimes I feel like I have the upper hand because I'm my girlfriend's first major relationship. And in fact, she talks to me in a way that you really only do in your first major relationship. Like sometimes at night, she'll turn to me and be like, you're my person. And I'm like, and you're last but not least. And it's not because I don't care, it's because I've been through a breakup before. And when the last woman who said she'd love you forever blocks you on Skype, it changes your insides a little bit. I met a woman in college. We dated for 5 years. And after 5 years of dating, she broke up with me at a crowded Starbucks in the middle of the day because she didn't want me to make a scene. And I was like, well, then you shouldn't have brought an audience! This happened in 2012, so it's still a little bit raw, but I was so desperate to win her back. I'm so young and dumb. I got a tattoo of the first letter of her name. If you can't see that, this is a cursive L for Laura. And it didn't work. She married someone else. And I have to tell every woman I date about my dead friend, Larry. Unfortunately, my current girlfriend knows what the tattoo actually stands for, which frankly is my fault for hooking up with an audience member. But I told her, I said, I'll get a tattoo of your whole name. And she was like, oh, so I can be number 2? And I was like, baby, comparison is the thief. Thank you. She does not find any of this funny, by the way. I want you to know that. We got in a big fight about it. I think it was because we had our 4th anniversary last year, and I think something about that number for her, my girlfriend, she told me one night, she said, look, I've been thinking about it. If you don't make plans to get rid of that tattoo, or cover it up with whatever you want, I don't think we can stay together. And I was taken aback. I was like, baby, what about my Larry joke? She was not persuaded. So I decided to compromise. I told her, I said, okay, look, let me figure out a way where I can film a comedy special. Where I can tell all my jokes about the tattoo on film. And I promised her, if that doesn't win Laura back, I will get it removed the very next day. No, I'm excited to get rid of the tattoo. Honestly, part of it is my girlfriend, she won't give me blowjobs because she says she sees the tattoo and it reminds her of my ex. I wish I got on my back so she stopped trying to peg me all the fucking time. She really does want to peg me. And by the way, I don't think it's to be nice. I think she's gonna be like, see, it's not fun when you do it that fast. I'm excited to build my life with my girlfriend. She's really, every aspect of my life, she's improved, except for sleep. Sleep's been tough because my girlfriend has night terrors. You really think? My girlfriend, she was diagnosed with chronic night terrors after she was mugged at knife point. That's how we met. And if you've never shared a bed with someone who has chronic night terrors, what it means is that we'll be asleep, and then in the middle of the night, my girlfriend will suddenly be like, someone's breaking in. And I'm like, where? And she's like, she falls right back to sleep. But I have chronic anxiety. So I'm awake the rest of the night, making me the only victim of both our mental disorders. And then she has no memory of the night terror, so in the morning she rolls over and is like, did you sleep okay? It's like a rapist asking, was it good for you? And she's been to doctors. She's tried medication. Nothing works. I just have to accept the fact that I share a bed with a malfunctioning police scanner every night of my life. And I've gotten pretty good over the years at kind of recognizing, oh, she's just having a night terror. And if I ignore it, usually she just falls right back to sleep on her own. But then once in the middle of the night, my girlfriend literally got out of the bed and started packing her things in a suitcase. Now, I looked at my phone. It was 4 a.m, so I was like, baby, you're having a night terror. And she was like, no, I just got a text that my dad is in the hospital. I need to go to the airport right fucking now. So, of course, I got my phone. I was like, which airport? And she was like, I was like, son of a bitch! They're getting smarter. So I don't know if I want kids. But my God, people keep asking me. I don't know. That's the real part where I could tell I was getting older, because I meet people for the first time. If I'm with my girlfriend, they within a minute of meeting, they go, you two ever think about having kids? I'm like, bup. That's not small talk. What do you plan on doing with your remains? And don't get me wrong, I want kids for social media purposes, of course. God, I make so many TikToks with those little shits. They'd be begging to work in the mines. But I don't know, asking me about kids, it feels theoretical, because I live in New York, I work in entertainment, I don't have friends that have kids, I don't really work with kids, so it's like asking me if I want a kangaroo. Yeah, I'm familiar, but I wouldn't know how to hit it. I can be theoretical about it. For my girlfriend, it's different. She's 34. My girlfriend got her eggs frozen last year, which was my idea. I told her instead of getting serious, we should defy God's will. And I went with her to the consultation, and the doctor, he showed us this laundry list of injections she would need to get. And I care about her. I said, are there any side effects, all these shots? And he said, worst case scenario, it's like PMS times 10. And I was like, I didn't know that was a unit of measurement too. I said, why, doc, why? And he said, well, because once a day she's gonna need to get a full injection of estrogen, which if you don't know, that's like dating a werewolf and injecting the moon. And then, you know, there's more shots to make the eggs bigger, and you got to time it with the cycles, and you know, there's a surgery. I had no idea how many scientific miracles it took for a woman to have a career. And we got the eggs. I want you to know that we got a bunch of eggs, and I was so relieved until I read about that fucking judge in Alabama who ruled that embryos are now considered people. And I know eggs and embryos aren't the same thing, but you see the way our country's going. We're like 2 rulings away from my girlfriend becoming a mother of 19. Republicans always act like they're helping families, but think about that. 19 kids growing up without a father. I think the more you zoom in on the pro-life philosophy, the more insane it is. This judge is basically saying if any of my cum gets on those eggs, they automatically become fully fledged human beings. I can't come on someone until I stop seeing them as a human being. It's crazy. Every comedian, we make sex jokes. I'm not like a kinky guy. And the only thing I really want to install a mirror over my bed, but that's just to prove that my girlfriend's taking more than half. If anything, she's the one usually trying to spice things up. My girlfriend once asked me to pick a porn for us to watch together, and she said, I want you to search what you'd search if I wasn't here. So I put in my usual search, women who look like my girlfriend. I've been watching porn a long time. And not just today. When I turned 15 years old, for my birthday, my father bought me a Playboy magazine. But here's the thing. I already had the internet. So I had to pretend like I was impressed. I was like, oh, wow, Dad. Boobs. I seen a man get fucked by a horse, okay? So get these still titties out of my face. Mr. Hands, Mr. Hands, Mr. Hands, yes. God, that video almost made me believe in God. Because when I saw that horse fuck that man, I was like, this is not what he intended. It's all of you, really. That's what we did back in middle school. We'd be like, hey, you want to come to my house and watch a crime in the computer room? Because it's a crime. It's a crime. It's a crime. It is illegal to have sex with animals because animals can't consent. However, if I was that guy's lawyer, I would have been like, Your Honor, you can lead a horse to water. You can't make it fuck my client in the ass. I want to play a lawyer on Law & Order SVU so goddamn bad. I think I could do it, but I have to be careful because no one on Law & Order SVU ever really curses. You know that? It's because it's on NBC, and so they want to make sure that all the rape and pedophilia is fun for the whole family. Watch it. You'll see cops get shot. They're like, zoinks. You'll see some guy get like busted for child porn. He's like, ay, ay, ay. I saw an episode of Law & Order SVU. There was this guy. He was taking out the trash. And when he got to the dumpster, there was a dead body. Hanging like this, okay? And I swear to God, this was the whole scene. Ready? Okay. End scene. I don't remember throwing that away. Are you fucking serious, dude? Let me tell you something. If I was taking out the trash and there was a dead body in the dumpster, it'd be a little something more. Like this. Doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. Oh, fuck. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh shit. Is it fucking dripping? Shit. Oh no, did it get in the fucking stairs? Fuck, dude! Why'd you buy the cheap fucking trash? Oh my God, did you get my fucking shoes? Fuck! God damn it, son of a bitch! I don't remember throwing that away. Wait. Okay. I messed up one part. Not that last scene, that was perfect, but... Okay, just keep rolling. Do you remember, do you remember the guy on the computer? Ay, 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 that guy? Okay, I just want to get it right, because I said he got busted for child porn. And I learned this on an episode of Law & Order SVU quite recently, but it's like a real thing where you're not supposed to use the term child porn because it implies that it's like consensual pornography. You know, so the appropriate term is child sexual abuse materials, which makes sense. But that's a lot to type with one hand. The last time I told that joke, I got an email 15 minutes after the show. And this one woman simply wrote, "There's nothing funny about child porn." And I was like, what the fuck did I just tell you about that phrase? Can I tell you that there's this conflict that I have sometimes as a comedian where like, I want to be, you know, a joke first at all times. Comedy is number one, but then there's another part of me. And it's been there since I've been a young man growing up in DC where I'm just like, I want everyone to know how progressive I am. And those two things do not always go together. Because I think, certainly today, a big part of being progressive has to do with language. You want to use updated language and terminology because you want to be sensitive to other people's feelings. And that's not funny. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not always willing to sacrifice the bigger laugh for the greater good. I have a joke that I'm going to say later tonight. And that joke uses the term illegal immigrant. And listen, I've had progressive friends whom I respect that have pulled me aside and they say, hey, you should reconsider that. It's a hurtful phrase. It implies that someone's existence is illegal. The appropriate term, the sensitive term, the kind term, the true term is undocumented immigrant. And I listen to them. I'm not an asshole about this stuff. I changed it. I went around the country and Canada and Australia using the term undocumented immigrant. And you know what happened? Stopped getting laughs. So I had to go back to my progressive friends and be like, I'm sorry, unlike you guys, I have to win the popular vote. Look, my jokes are leftist, but they're disguised in centrist language because they need to work outside California. I pick my battles. Like every time there was an election where it was possible, I would try so hard to get my dad to vote for Bernie Sanders. And every time he'd say the same thing. You know who else supported universal health care? You know who else supported Medicare for all? Adolf Hitler. And I was like, not for everybody. I tried turning him into a socialist, my 71-year-old father. I told him, I said, give me one good argument against giving people free access to a college education. So he sent me a link to my website. I know I talk about my dad too much on stage, but I think it's because I feel like if I can get you guys to understand who my father truly is, then maybe you'll understand just how well I'm doing considering the circumstances. But it can be tough because I'm sure you know, it takes a lot of time to write jokes. So it's like, you know when you see a star in the sky, not to compare, but you know how you're not seeing the star as it is right now? Like you're seeing it light years in the past, and that's how long it took for the light to reach us. That's what it's like with stand-up comedy. I talk about things like they happened recently, but in real life, I've completely imploded. And sometimes, especially when you talk about your own life, a major event can happen where it's like, I don't necessarily have the time that I want to bring it on stage. But then there's, on the other hand, it's like it's so major that I can't not talk about it. Like last year, my dad had a heart attack, and it required an emergency quintuple bypass. And it's an extremely serious situation. So he called me. There was some space before the surgery, like pretty much 24 hours, and he said he wanted me to come down so we could go over his will and testament. And I said, of course. And he said, I want you to know if anything happens to me before you get here, that I will be at all your shows in spirit. And I was like, oh, just like when you were alive. So I bought the next plane ticket available. It was very expensive, but I said, fuck it, it's an emergency. I sent my dad a Venmo request. And I went alone. My girlfriend offered to go with me, but I was worried it would bring us closer together. So when I got to the hospital, it was just my dad, me, my little sister, and my dad's new girlfriend, going oldest to youngest. And believe me, I've already had this conversation with him. And my father, he says to me, he says, son, you don't understand. When I date women my age, it reminds me of my mortality. And I said, okay, when I see the women you date, it reminds me of Jeffrey Epstein. And by the way, the reason my dad invited me down, it wasn't some like beautiful kumbaya moment. I think it's because this all happened so fast. He didn't have time to reach out to his lawyer. So he wanted to verbally, he filmed it on his phone. He wanted to like announce to the family that he would now be leaving a third of his estate to this new girlfriend that none of us had ever met. And I could tell my sister was mad, so I whispered to her. I was like, now you know how I felt when you were born. But she was not in a giggly mood. My little sister is normally quite a soft-spoken. She stormed out of the room. I followed her into the hallway because she was screaming. She was like, that woman's a bitch! That woman's a gold digger! She only likes him for his money! And I was like, as opposed to what? His rockin' bod? I'm her older brother, so I had to explain to her, sweetheart, our dad is 71 years old, okay? If you suck a 71-year-old's dick, you get to be in the will. It's called capitalism, sweetheart. What are we doing? Calling once a week? She is putting in the hard labor. Gold diggers are like illegal immigrants. Everyone gets mad at them, but they're not taking the jobs any of us want to do. It also happens to be that my dad's girlfriend is an illegal immigrant, but that's not important to the story. So, we got back to the room, and just in time, because they were prepping my dad for the surgery, and this is a major surgery. There's multiple doctors and nurses, and amidst all the computers and wires, I was barely able to give my dad's hand one last squeeze to remind him of the Venmo, and I could tell that my dad was very scared, because he said to me, "Son, would you do me a favor? Tell your mom I'm sorry." And when he said that, hand to God, my mom was calling my phone. And I was like, "Oh my God, Dad. You could tell her yourself." So he pretended to go into cardiac arrest, and they rolled him to the OR. I called my mom back. I told her what was happening. We placed our bets. And, you can do anything on DraftKings. It's incredible. And then a quintuple bypass, if you don't know, it can be like a 5 to 6 hour surgery. And if you've ever dealt with like something like this, it's kind of surreal, because in the beginning, it's very intense and very emotional. And then, frankly, it's kind of boring. So after it was all kind of like, okay, everything's on track, my sister, she kind of went and got breakfast, and I manned the fort, and then she came back, and I thought, she wasn't quite ready for it, but I decided to bring my dad's new girlfriend out to lunch, and I brought her to like a really nice steakhouse that my dad brought me when I was her age, and I told her, I said, "Get a filet mignon, get a lobster, it's on me." Thank God she just wanted butter noodles, and being an asshole. She's very mature for her age, and she told me about her life. I told her what it was like to be alive during 9/11, and I even ordered some wine. I let her have a sip when the waiter wasn't watching, and she was like, bitter. And then I went to pay at the end of this meal. I turned my phone over. It had been face down, like I was an idiot. But I turned it over, and I had 14 missed calls from my sister. And I called her back. She answered right away, and she told me that our dad's heart surgery did not go as we had hoped. He's still alive. When we got back to the hospital, the doctor had a big smile on his face, that smug son of a bitch, and I could tell my dad was feeling better, because his first words were, "Tell your mom I take it back." And then the doctor told me the surgery was so successful, he said, "When your dad's fully recovered, he's gonna feel like he's back in his 50s. And I was like, "Do you know what that means?" "Doctor, that means there's a chance in this hospital, someone is delivering his next girlfriend." I didn't cry that whole day, which I don't mean it as like a flex, but you never know until you're in these situations kind of how you're going to react. And I think in my mind I was like, we got to just focus on the business, kind of stay in line, and just be there for whatever anyone needs. But then at the end, as we were like just waiting for my dad to feel good enough that he could leave the hospital, the nurse brought me and my sister an iPad that was playing an industrial of like a video showing. It was like showing it was like a family showing how to take care of a dad after heart surgery. And so they're showing how to like put him into the wheelchair, and then you get to the wheelchair to the car. And there's this one scene at the end where the son in the video is showing how to put the seatbelt over the post-op pillow, this like big heart-shaped pillow actually. And in this scene, I mean, he's practically hugging his dad like as he buckles him in. And it was that part that my sister, she turned to me, she was like, "Oh my God, are you crying?" And I was. because I had auditioned to play the son. Thank you very much.
I only wanna dance with you. When I know my heart is blue. Don't want my kicks from someone else. Can't watch the sunrise all by myself.
Okay.